everybody. How are you? I'm Meredith. And listen, I'm just a girl stuck in my apartment looking for someone, well, anyone other than my fiance, who I love dearly. Truly, that's him. It's our engagement photo to talk to me. So this week I found some people. We're all talking about weddings and celebrations that have been postponed because of the pandemic. My guest today is Erik Kent. He's the co-publisher of njweddings.com. Erik, thanks so much for joining me. Let's talk about it.
Thank you very much, Meredith. Great to be here.
Take me back to early March when, as we'll discuss, not only I'm sure did things massively change for your magazine, but my life massively changed. Our world has massively changed because of the pandemic. When things were starting to creep up and we were starting to talk about this more, did you think to yourselves, we are in for it when it comes to weddings? Weddings are going to be massively affected.
So I was at a big wedding expo in March, and I kind of sensed that things were changing. It was like one of those events that happened and, you weren't sure if you wanted to go, and when there was news of this virus that was happening, but I was a sponsor. We had, that's how we promote our website, njwedding.com, by kind of getting involved in different events that are real world events that couples go to meet vendors face to face. And, the news broke about the coronavirus and what impact it would have. And I kind of felt it when people were, had a little bit of trepidation when it came to approaching the vendors and, coming out. But those that came out had a sense of that things were changing. One of the things that was nice about the event, I'll tell you, is that they were handing out hand sanitizer. Mm-hmm. It was co-branded. So they were prepared, and they kind of knew that things were happening where we need to focus on health and cleanliness. That was important.
Did you think that focus or the new, prominence of hand sanitizer would turn into what it's become of at least a season of postponed, if not canceled events?
Those that were in the wedding industry that are used to larger gatherings were wondering, how are we going to handle this and help our clients, our couples, celebrate their wedding? And would marriage, the next big question was, is marriage on that list to be suspended, to be banned for the foreseeable future? Those became important questions.
What were some of the beginning steps that you were seeing your industry pivot to because of the pandemic, the shutdowns, fear of the virus?
It's interesting because I have a different answer right now for currently, but you brought me back to March and early April, and the first steps were the venues and the other bigger services reaching out to their couples and saying, because of the pandemic, because of the restrictions on our venue and gatherings, we want to help you postpone. Now, the postponement was for a few months, maybe late July and August, maybe the fall. I don't think we expected it to be further than that. Yeah. So it became an education as things progressed on what specifically would happen. I'll mention one thing about the industry is that there are, in New Jersey and New York and the tri-state area, Pennsylvania included, very popular venues that are booked for a year or two in advance. And when this came as an issue, couples were concerned that they couldn't find a date that would accommodate them, right? So a date for March or April or May wouldn't be available in October and November, maybe December, maybe January and February, but then, they had to figure that out. So a lot of the venues, came up with an idea to consider, and for the couples to consider postponing the event to a Monday or a weekday wedding. And if we follow the trends, weekday weddings aren't such a bad thing, but they're, like Fridays and Thursdays became a popular day. So this idea was to have them on Mondays, where one, the venue that you chose would be available, and most of the vendors.
What steps, what trends are you seeing the industry, vendors, venues, couples even now starting to take, looking forward to their upcoming celebrations and weddings?
Well, it's still difficult to answer because there's no guidelines saying that there's a room for a 300-person wedding. So we still go by the same guidelines. In New Jersey, it's 10 indoors and 25 outside. And what I've been impressed with is seeing couples kind of pivot and decide, you know what? We picked this date for a reason. We picked our venue for a reason. We want to get married anyway. And they choose to do that within those guidelines. They've postponed their bigger celebration, which they may call a vow renewal or a redo or another celebration in the future when that time comes, because we don't really know when the virus will be down to a certain minimum where we can safely have a celebration of 300 people, which includes people from traveling from regional, national, and international destinations, and of all age groups, because we're concerned of the older population with this virus. So we have to make do with what we have, and what we have is the ability to celebrate. And the joy of marriage, the joy of honoring each other, the couple, the relationship, and those that can celebrate with them in a physical sense.
More than just size and density, what changes are you seeing in what couples are really looking for their wedding, their goals?
Interesting. It's developing. I think it's a day-to-day situation, but there's certain elements that have to happen. I look at the trade magazines for the special event industry, and they're inventing a room, with a lounge chair in one corner of the room, a few tables positioned in another way. So they're socially distanced. Again, another term we've had to learn, where, ideally you want to be close and you want to be able to hug each other or greet each other like you're used to, or a handshake or, kiss on the cheek, just to have that. But if that's going to result in, unfortunately, the potential of an illness being spread, we have to make sure that's the first thing that doesn't happen. So I think the event industry as a whole is trying to currently figure out how to accommodate while enjoying enjoying the ability to know what they do best, which is to celebrate.
A couple vendors come to you and, expressed almost a trauma from this experience.
Well, I understand completely and can understand why they feel that way, because it's one of the biggest events that they're planning in their life. And they're bringing families together. They're bringing friends from various, college or work friends. And this has been something that has been on their mind 24/7. It's a fun time. It's exciting. And it's only hard to think that it won't happen, right? Like if it doesn't happen, that could be really traumatic. But the fact is, it can happen. So here's my 2 cents. From my understanding and perspective, and I'll say my wife and I are married 25 years, and we have, children, we have a life, we have a business together. Marriage is great. Marriage is exciting and it's fun, and you're growing as a couple. So I can empathize that they're planning this event together. They're having difficulty in the realization that it can't come together the same way they had planned. But putting it into perspective of the big picture, it's going to happen whether it's a smaller event initially, which they can choose to do or not, or just to postpone until it's safer.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the key. This is an emergency. It is. I mean, if something happened to a relative or something happened to one of the members of the couple, and they were not able to do something for 6 months, 9 months, a year, and they had to postpone, you do whatever it takes to, work together and to get better, to feel better, to get stronger, and to be able to have whatever that is. In this case, it's a wedding celebration. There's lots of things that we can talk about, but really, bottom line is that there's opportunities to have a wedding or to get married ahead of time, to celebrate. And I've seen some really interesting moments where, we all enjoy the traditional wedding, where you come down the aisle, your fiance, looks at you, and, everyone's sitting there and gazing at this amazing day and how this love is coming together in this form of, marriage, celebrating you as a couple. And it's a very exciting time. And at the same time, the same thing happens in your backyard or a small restaurant or a gazebo in the park. You're bringing together two people who love each other, and it's going to happen. It's a wonderful reason to be happy and to join in, as I say, matrimony and then families. So it's kind of an interesting time to celebrate, and you can be very creative in doing that with technology, by hiring people that can really make it happen. I've seen people do like a drive-through where people, are socially distanced in their cars. The couple gets married and they come out into the front and there's a line of cars celebrating them. So it's kind of an opportunity to make something different happen, and a memory that you won't soon forget.
Sure. What about for you personally? How has the pandemic changed how New Jersey Weddings does business, how it tells stories, and where it's going forward?
That's a good question. We've been in business 23 years. So my wife and I started njwedding.com Valentine's Day 1997. It was a brand new enterprise, brand new time for the internet. So we've been through a lot, growing our business as a directory of services, of venues, of articles and tips and photos and videos and all these, reviews of various wedding vendors. And weddings are strong. Marriage is strong. So the wedding celebration, it has to sometimes pivot. And we're here to help promote our advertisers, our vendors, our services, from photographers to DJs and bands and musicians to caterers and venues and florals, designers, limousine companies. If you think about each individual business, they have to pivot as well. Because, our industry as a whole has taken a big hit with weddings stopping. So I'm seeing, DJs performing online, where they're showing their stuff. They can show how they can DJ a party. I'm seeing these various vendors participate in a virtual marriage, helping with technology, an officiant that can go anywhere to help a couple get married. Other types of services. In fact, one of the things that people are doing are packaging their service into what is called a micro wedding.
Has the wedding been reinvented for post-pandemic times, or do you think we'll see this pit stop of change and then things will go back to the way they were?
For some reason, I can see things going back to the way they were. It may take some time, and not thrilled with the idea of wearing a mask to a larger event, if that's what it entails. But if that's what it entails in the beginning, as we progress, as we transition to larger and possibly, more inclusive events that we can all feel comfortable, even trade shows. Like, I go to trade shows in the wedding industry very often throughout the year. And it's exciting because it's a chance for you to meet people face to face and talk with them about their business. So I can see that still happening in terms of the industry. What's happened since that time, and since my last time in the early March when I went, and I participate in various ways. I have a table, or I'm a sponsor, and so I'm always talking to everyone there and talking to couples and vendors. So I'm curious to know what's happening in the industry. But I can see that happening again, where couples are going and maybe transitioning to the fact that they can see people from a distance or take materials from, or even digital, like even the fact that they don't have to take anything from their table. They can just kind of, for some way you can do it hands-free, with the thing like a little code that's on your tag. And I mean, we can think of that in different ways. But I was going to say that I've participated in a number of virtual wedding showcases since March, maybe April and May, and now June. There's a few scheduled as well, and it's kind of fun. I could sit in my office and I can chat with brides who are chatting alongside the event. The event is hosted by someone that's either remotely in their office, and then they could bring in different vendors. So it's kind of interesting to see how you can be safe. You can sit in the comfort of your home or office, and you can learn, you can research, and you can purchase, meaning you can buy. If you like what you see and you see there's a way of getting in touch with that vendor, you can connect with them. You can purchase their service, reserve them for a future date or ask questions. So it's kind of there's a mix of things that are happening. There's the traditional, let's gather, let's get together for a wedding event, trade show, whatever it may be. And then there's the virtual pre-event, information that gets disseminated in different ways, and you can benefit by both things. But I'm looking to get back to the gatherings where everyone remembers the food, the music, the dancing,
And not
the togetherness. That's what it's all about, right?
Exactly.
So, until then, we do the best we can.
Absolutely. Well, Eric, thank you so much for talking with me today. You gave my fiance a bit of a break, some quiet time, since this is very much all we talk about, and even more what I talk about. So he thanks
Understandable.
as well.
A pleasure. And I wish you the best with your plans and everyone with their plans out there. And everything's going to be good if you just know what's important, and we'll get through it together.
Absolutely. This has been Let's Talk About It. We'll talk to you next time.